Hi there. Didn't see it come in. It's me, Stephen Foxworthy, and this is the Disenfranchised Podcast, where that podcast all about those franchises of one, those films that fancy themselves full-fledged franchises before falling flat on their face after the first film. I am your host, the aforementioned Stephen Foxworthy, and joining me, as always, the Cato to my Green Lantern is my co-host Tucker. Hey, Tucker.
Hi, Stephen. How's it going?
It goes, man. How are you?
It's pretty good. I'm all right. Busy, but good.
We should note here that our co-host Brett Wright has been kidnapped by some unsavory gangsters in Los Angeles. We wish him a very speedy recovery.
Absolutely.
But Tucker, we are here. We kind of ended up stumbling backwards into an unofficial theme month. We had something else planned for this week, and unfortunately, the guest that we had was unable to join us this evening, although we do plan on having them back very soon to discuss the movie we were planning to discuss today. So instead, Tucker, we opted to just make this an unofficial theme month by covering what?
2011's Michel Gondry's The Green Hornet.
Yes, the 2011 Michel Gondry film, The Green Hornet. That is a film that happened that you all probably forgot happened, but that doesn't change the fact that it did. Directed, of course, as we said, by Michel Gondry, based on characters created by George W. Trendle and Fran Stryker, with a screenplay by Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg, and starring the aforementioned Seth Rogen, Jay Chow, Cameron Diaz, Tom Wilkinson, Christoph Waltz, David Harbour, Edward James Olmos, Jamie Harris, Chad Coleman, Edward Ma fucking Furlong, and in an uncredited cameo at the top of the film, one Mr. James Franco. What a cast, Tucker. What a picture.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, what a cast and basically what a picture, yeah.
So basically, we've managed to cover in a bass-ackwards roundabout way 4 comic books / superhero movies this month, which was not our intention going in. It just kind of happened that way. So making this kind of an unofficial theme month, and the last 2 weeks kind of their own special miniseries of 2011 films based on superheroes with green in the title.
It's all green, baby.
It's all green, baby. I mean, look, it's better than the Green Bee. I'll say that at least. Tucker, what is your history with the Green Hornet as a property, with this film in specific? Like, what brings you to the Green Hornet? This was a movie you confided in me in the text thread earlier that was one that you enjoyed. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I've always kind of been familiar with the character of the Green Hornet, originally from the guest spots on the original Batman TV series with Adam West.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how I found out that existed. And then
Same.
In my late teens, until today, I've had a quiet obsession with old-timey radio programs. So I have dipped into that a bit. But I think the biggest draw for me in this film when I saw it originally, and I did see this at the movie theater when it came out,
Nice.
my biggest draw was that it was directed by Michel Gondry. And he is my second favorite music video director of all time. And
I mean, he was kind of the shit when he was first like hitting the ground in Hollywood. Like he kind of came in swinging.
Got some great stuff. And another movie that for me, topic wise, does not age well, but still every time I watch it, it gets better. Is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Like I relate less with the characters every time that I watch it, but just the way that it's made and the visual style of it and the direction of it just like blows my mind every fucking time I see it. And so I've always loved him as a director. He did Be Kind, Rewind, which is another fucking forgotten masterpiece.
Have never seen it. Was aware of it when it came out, but just never saw it.
So let me tell you about it just real quick. Quick sidebar. Be Kind Rewind um, stars Jack Black and Mos Def,
Mm-hmm.
and they work at a video store.
Now
And
known as Yassine Bey.
through an act of God, all their videotapes get erased, so they have to remake all of these movies, like just themselves with like a video camera and whatever they have lying around. And it is the most wholesome, sweetest, most beautiful thing you'll ever see, Steven. Go watch Be Kind Rewind right now. I'll wait.
Sounds good.
Well, see you guys next week. Steven's going to go watch Be Kind Rewind. This has been our episode on the Green Hornet.
And bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Goodbye. No, I will have to check it out because look,
Please do.
I have seen, as I mentioned to you in the text thread, I've seen 2 Michel Gondry movies in my life. And this is the first one I ever rewatched. The Green Hornet is the first one I ever rewatched. I watched Eternal Sunshine for the Spotless Mind one time in college after it had been released on a digital video disc. And then my mother gifted me this in like an Easter basket or something shortly after it came out. And I remember watching it that day and being so unimpressed that I think I ended up selling it to Half Price Books not long after. Was just generally unimpressed by this film as a whole. Was kind of in fact I was so unimpressed by it I kind of checked out on it early and was just kind of like doing other things while it was on. Was just really not but so I actually watched it today, and as I mentioned to you in the text thread, better than I remember. Maybe because I was actually watching it this time.
Michel Gondry, man. There's speaking of Michel Gondry, another recommendation that you have to put on the priority list while you have access to Showtime, Steven, is the series Kidding, which is a series,
the Jim Carrey show.
There were like 2 or 3 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And Michel Gondry directed 8 episodes of that. It's about Jim Carrey. He plays kind of a Mr. Rogers type.
Right.
And it delves into the dichotomy of that, like the duality, I guess, of, living that life of being that person on screen and then dealing with like real adult things off camera.
Yeah.
And it's really, really good. I think it's hands down Jim Carrey's best performance.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
He is so good in that show. I kind of want to do a rewatch because I keep thinking about it and I keep being like, man, I want to watch that again because it was just so fucking good.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to check it out. And I made a list of Michel Gondry films. I think there's like 9 feature-length films that he alone directed. So I will have to check those out. And including many I had never even heard of before, like The Science of Sleep and
yes, that movie is so badass.
The Book of Solutions, which just came out earlier this year. Like he's a guy who's done, but he's also done a lot of like, he was like a preeminent music video director. Like his music video, he's so stacked.
I tell you what, he
directed like a Rolling Stone video for the Rolling Stones, which is a fucking great video. I love that video.
He directed a lot of White Stripe videos too, which is why you have
they're in the soundtrack on this movie.
Yeah. Like his White Stripe videos, Fell in Love with a Girl, fucking classic. I don't know if you've seen that video, but it's Lego animation before Lego animation was a thing. But it's done to where like instead of having Lego figures, it's like the backdrop it's Lego. I don't know how to explain it. I feel like we have to watch it right now, but that would slow things down.
That would send it to a crawl. That's like something we would do on Patreon.
We might have to, when this is over, we might have to do a commentary to that music video.
Depends on what time we finish. Yeah.
Title of my sex tape.
Hey. If we're gonna go deep on Michel Gondry, we might be here too. Because look, I mean, as late as it is for me, it's an hour later for you, and I just have to keep that in mind.
Let me tell you something about Michel Gondry, which is something that's very weird about this movie, because I feel like this is one of the only films that he's ever made where not all of the effects are done in camera. Like Eternal Sunshine of the
I believe that.
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. There's no digital effects in that movie, Steven.
Mm-hmm.
That's all in camera. Be Kind,
Right.
Rewind, that's all in camera. Kidding. All of that, all of his music videos, it's all done practically. It's fucking amazing.
This movie feels in a very big way like his swing at a more mainstream film career. And I think had this film not cost so much to make,
Yeah.
it probably could have been.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was not unsuccessful. It just was not successful compared to expectations, which is kind of a Hollywood problem these days. Which
Very
we will
much,
get
especially
into.
these days. I
Yeah.
recently talked about that when we talked about the most recent Flash movie. Because
Right.
that movie did gangbusters, but on that budget, it was a fucking bomb, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Bomb.
Which means we could probably cover it for our end of year retrospective failed franchise starter.
I would love to hear what you guys have to say about that movie because I had an absolute fucking blast with it.
I haven't seen it. I'm waiting for it to hit Max, which is pretty much what I do with superhero movies these days.
In a week,
wait till they hit Max.
I think the 25th is when it hits Max.
Okay.
Yeah, next Friday, dude.
So like the day after this episode drops, right on.
Yup.
Oh yeah. So yeah, maybe I'll watch it then. Maybe I won't. I don't know. Who knows? Not me.
Who knows?
I don't know. We'll see.
Future isn't written yet, man.
That's right. No one's is. But yeah, that's my history of Michel Gondry. Now, as to the character of the Green Hornet, Black Hornet, what the hell? Green Hornet.
Watch that movie.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
My familiarity I think I started figuring out who he was when I watched a documentary about Bruce Lee. And realized
because he was Kato in the series, yeah.
Right. And I never heard of this before. And I was like, how have I never heard of this before? And they showed pictures of him with the Adam West Batman and Burt Ward Robin and the two of them in there. And I was like, oh, I've never heard of this guy. So I kind of became a little interested. Saw some comics with him as I got older, and then realized that there's a connection between that character and Trendle's other creation, the Lone Ranger, in that
they're straight up related, yo.
It's his, like, the Green Hornet is his great grandnephew or something. Like, it's kind of fucking wild. So
the original MCU right there.
Mm-hmm. Well, and again, I as I mentioned on last week's episode, I think it was, your boy, or no, it wasn't on last week's. It was on my appearance last week on High on Cartoons is what it was. This past week's episode, go check it out. But your boy loves shared universes and always has. Like, I love that shit. I eat that shit with a spoon. And so, like, I was just like, wait, these characters are connected? Fuck yes, this is the best. And since they're all in the public domain, you can pretty much do whatever the fuck you want with any of those characters right now, which is fucking awesome. So if you wanted to put, like, the two of them and, like, not Doc Savage, because Doc Savage is owned by Condé Nast, but you could, like, take a bunch of those pulp heroes and, like, pop them on a team together and just do that shit. Like, you could absolutely make that happen. And that is fucking exciting as hell to me. But no, I was kind of interested in the character, and then I saw that this movie was coming out, and I didn't know what to do with this movie when it first came out, because I mean, this is, like we said last week, this is the year before the culmination of the first phase of the MCU, the Avengers. So, like, the Marvel movies are kind of picking up steam, but you've also got the Christian Bale Batman movies running concurrently with those. So there are these two veins of comic book movie. You also
got X-Men's going on at the same time.
Not as strong. When is First Class? I'm gonna look that up right now.
It's possible that I'm wrong, but I feel like
First Class is also this year. It's also 2011. X-Men First Class is also 2011. Would have loved to see what Matthew Vaughn did with an X-Men trilogy. Fuck He Who Must Not Be Named for destroying that. But you've got, like, that really. So, I mean, this is kind of this is the year, I think, that is trying to figure out, like, this is the year where we're fighting for the future of the superhero movie. And then the next year is where that battle really takes place, when it's Avengers versus Dark Knight Rises, and eventually Avengers overtakes it and becomes the new normal for superhero movies going forward. But this movie feels kind of lost, because this movie, and we'll get into this, has been in development hell for 20 years by the time it finally comes out. Like, they start kicking around the notion in 1992, and then it doesn't get made till 2011. Like, that's a long run time for this movie. We'll talk about actors, directors, everything that was in that process. But like, this movie got kicked around so much, the rights changed hands so many times, the tone of the bitch changed so many times, that by the end of it, what we're left with feels really unfocused. And most of my complaints about this movie come from the script. There are moments that I find really enjoyable and really glorious, and the filmmaking itself is really well done, but the script just it can't focus on any one thing. It's trying to do too many things, and it feels like it's borrowing a lot from these past iterations of all these different scripts and trying to make something cohesive out of it, and ultimately not really hitting that mark in my mind.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you on that. I think I don't think it's a bad script. Like I said, I would say I think that this would work a lot better if they made it now as a television series, because those switches in tone work a lot better from episode to episode than they do in one thing, you know?
And you can take your time and tell the story that way, which
Absolutely.
when you've got a
Something this
2-hour
movie does not
runtime,
do,
no.
unfortunately.
When you've got like a 2-hour runtime, you're trying to hit that runtime and stick that landing, that's never going to be an easy thing to accomplish. Now, by this point, Rogen and Goldberg, the screenwriters, have Superbad and Pineapple Express under their belts. So like, they're pretty well established as a comedy writing duo at this point, but this is their first foray into something that maybe is not explicitly comedic on its face, that because they're the guys writing it, it ends up kind of having a comedic slant to it.
Well, I think they kind of proved themselves with Pineapple Express in a way to where they could take their comedy writing and still make some pretty good and well-made action set pieces as well. And that's the thing about this movie, is you've got 2 hours, right? You've got a whole lot of story. But you also you have to this is the kind of movie that you have to have those action set pieces, man. And every single one is mind-blowing, and they nail every single one. It's just, we need more of the in-between. We need more of it, and we need it to be paced better.
The pacing is so off. The whole movie, the pacing is so fucking off.
This movie starts off with a bang, and then in the middle, you're like, I might take a nap. And then like maybe 10 minutes later, you're like, okay, I'm back into this. What's up? Like, it's all over the fucking place.
It is. And again, I think unfocused is the right word. And that's not my word. I read that in a review as I was researching for this. Gloriously unfocused, I think, was what it said. It was what the line was. And honestly, that works really well, because this movie is not, it's not cohesive. Like there's a perfunctory female character because we kind of need one.
I guess.
Question mark. I mean,
Cameron Diaz needs a job, I guess. Like,
let's, know what? Let's fucking talk Cameron Diaz, because this is, if memory serves, this is toward the end of her big screen run. She kind of retires a few years after this. So yeah, she retires in 2014 after she does Annie in 20.
Well, I mean, she was getting to a certain age, you know.
Which is a shitty thing about Hollywood.
No, I was talking about the movie. That's what.
Oh, that is what Seth Rogen says. But fuck Hollywood asshole, at the same time.
It's such a great way. Like, I love Seth Rogen in this movie, and I love his chemistry with dude what plays Kato. I think they're both really nailing it. It's just a damn shame that the script was not there to support them in the way that it should have been, because I think they're fucking phenomenal, both of them. So
2014, the year she retires, she does The Other Woman, Sex Tape, and Annie. In 2014, which is not a great note to go out on. 2011, I mean, she's just done the last Shrek movie the year before. She also does the Tom Cruise film.
Obligation, yeah.
Right. The Tom Cruise film Night and Day.
Yeah.
And then she does a shit ton of Shrek shorts, the Scared Shrekless, Donkey's Christmas Shrektacular, and Shrek's Yule Log.
You sign up for them, you got to do them.
That's it. And then in 2011, she does this and Bad Teacher. 2012, it's What to Expect When You're Expecting. There was a whole run of movies. I think I've said this recently on this podcast too. There's a whole run of movies where it's bad and then occupation or like role. It's Bad Santa, Bad Teacher, Bad Moms, Bad Moms
You've got
Christmas.
Bad Grandmas. Yeah.
Got
bad everything.
Bad everything. It's just
a
like
whole genre now.
It's an entire subgenre of films, just like bad fill in the blank.
Don't let that keep you from watching Bad Santa, Steven, because Bad Santa is a goddamn masterpiece.
You've said that before.
There's no sequel to it. I don't care what anybody says. There was never a sequel made. So don't go looking for it.
And then
she's the first one.
After that, she kind of starts to peter out. She does What to Expect When You're Expecting in 2012. Another direct to video Shrek movie, along with a something called The Liar's Autobiography. She does the voice of Sigmund Freud in is this a Graham Chapman biopic or documentary about Monty Python's Graham Chapman? It looks like it's a documentary of sorts called A Liar's Autobiography, The Untrue Story of Monty Python's Graham Chapman. Animation comedy, an animated, factually incorrect biography of Graham Arthur Chapman, one of the founding members of comedy group Monty Python. She apparently is the voice of Sigmund Freud for that. She does a movie called Gambit in 2012, and then in 2013, it's In a World and The Counselor, and then she does that run in 2014, and she's done. She's done one thing since then, and it's the Boss Bitch Fight Challenge in 2020. And then she's in post-production on a movie called Back in Action, which is her and Jamie Foxx and Glenn Close and Kyle Chandler and Andrew Scott, apparently.
I hate to pull back the curtain, Steven, but I have to admit that I was just peeing because you just talked about that Graham Chapman movie, and it's both. It's both, and it's amazing, and watch it right now.
Okay. I don't know anything about it. In fact, I was on another screen, so I didn't even know that you'd left. Because my screen was filled up with other things.
I made a pee.
I see that now.
I get an M&M now.
Well, I'll leave that to you to find, because I don't know where you keep them. But yeah, like this is like toward the end of Cameron Diaz's run, and honestly, it kind of feels like it. Like she's kind of wasted in this movie. Like a star of her caliber to do something like this just feels very thankless, and it's just kind of like one of those, I don't know, these make money, so I guess it could be in one of these. Like she had not done a superhero movie since The Mask in 1994.
And that's, I would argue that I wouldn't really call that a superhero movie. I would be more apt to call that a comic book movie.
I mean, yeah, fair. And honestly, this is not really a comic book movie because the Green Hornet started as a radio drama.
Oh, and P.S. In a World is very awesome as well. Everyone
I agree. Fred Melamed in that movie is fucking incredible. Let's be honest though, Fred Melamed, when's he bad? Like I've never seen Fred Melamed give a bad performance.
You still haven't watched Barry, so you haven't seen another one of his good performances.
Oh, I haven't. You know what his best performance is though?
What's that? Lay it on me, Steven.
I mean, if you really think about it, you'll be able to figure it out pretty quickly, but I'll just go ahead and tell you. Cy Abelman in A Serious Man. Fuck yeah. I was going to say, I knew if you thought about it for half a second, you'd get there.
He's just like the nicest asshole in that movie.
He's so great in that movie. Like, I love the fact he's like, yes, I've been having an affair with your wife. No, it's not a big deal. Yes, let's all talk about it and be friends. Like, God, in that movie. He's in the costumes they put him in are so fucking incredible. Like, I want to do a Cy Abelman cosplay right now. I'm not Jewish, and I feel like that would be appropriation, so I probably shouldn't. But God, I want that so much.
No, every Jewish person would approve, Steve. They know your heart's in the right place.
I don't think they do, and I don't even know if it is. I just really love that character. Uh,
Hi, it's me, Tucker. I'd like to speak to the Jewish community, please.
oh,
Is
God.
is that something I could do?
And this is the day we all get canceled.
Hey, I've been invited to several barbecues, but I've never been invited to a bar mitzvah. So
'Cause you're not
maybe,
Jewish.
okay, I'm just saying, like, I don't know if you missed the first part of what I said,
Yeah.
but there are several groups I'm not a part of that I'm invited to the party.
I don't
But
know, man.
I've never been to a Jewish function. It makes me a little sad, honestly, because I
The
think that shit's interesting as hell.
there are a lot of grocery stores that cater to. I live in a community now that has a large Jewish population, and so a lot of the grocery stores I go to have huge kosher sections, and I love digging into the kosher sections because kosher shit is good. Like, I like kosher. I like eating kosher. Like, it's good. It's good stuff. So yeah. But yeah, Cy Ebelman, that guy fucking rules. Like the hero we don't deserve but absolutely need.
Gotta have him. Even
Which,
when he dies, he's still
mhm.
there to fucking just like go at it. Wow.
And speaking of Jewish superheroes, the Green Hornet, Seth Rogen as
Hey.
the Green Hornet,
Yeah, dude.
who I don't think he was. I mean, the actual character of the Green of Britt Reed, the original Green Hornet, very waspish. Rogen making it his own. Honestly, there are times when I think Rogen is a bit miscast here, and then there are other times when he makes me buy it.
Yeah, he
Like,
nails it for sure.
like there are moments where I'm like, Seth Rogen, action star, really? And by the end, I'm like, okay, I kind of see this, and honestly, by the end of the movie, I kind of want more. Like, not that I want this movie to be longer, but I kind of want another one of these.
I'd watch it. I'd watch the shit out of it for
Hell
sure.
yeah, hell yeah. To jump ahead to the sequel we haven't done in fucking ages, but probably should have been doing since the beginning, but we're doing it now, whatever. I would
And
say
also
yes.
shut up.
And
Yes.
also shut up, especially shut up. But I would say yes, absolutely. This movie deserves to have a sequel.
Give me the sequel
Because I
anytime.
think
I'm
a
there day
sequel, you
one.
could work the bugs out of it. And based on what I've heard, it was basically studio, not interference, but negligence that really led to
Yeah.
this movie not doing well. And we'll get into all of that. But before we continue, Tucker, do you want to do some background on the movie first, or do you want to just get the plot out of the way?
Let's get the plot out of the way because that frees us to do whatever the fuck we want.
Right on. Get out that Canadian quarter of indifference while I explain the plot in 60 seconds. That is the part of the show where we, Tucker and myself, and Brett, when he's here, will toss a coin or roll a die to determine which of us will be recounting the plot of 2011's The Green Hornet in 60 seconds or less, giving off the 30 and 10-second warnings as needed. But yeah, so Tucker's going to go ahead and flip that Canadian quarter of indifference to determine which of us it shall be.
Indeed, the queen is heads, the moose is tails. Call it in the air, Steven.
We're going to go tails.
It is heads.
Bitch. All right. Put 60 seconds on the clock, then, and I will knock this mofo out.
I gotta do that.
This is a weirdly plot-dense movie. A weirdly plot-dense movie.
Is this a minute or an hour? How do I work timers? Oh, there we go. Okay.
How do I work time?
Speaking of time, I finally re-upped my membership into the Kit Kat clock family. My Kit Kat clock there.
I do, yeah.
Tail wagging and his eyes going back and forth.
The little pseudo Felix, yeah.
Yeah, dude. I had one of those back in the day, and I left it somewhere, and it disappeared.
Got destroyed in the flood.
60 seconds, pretty much. 60 seconds are on the clock. Steven, I will start this timer when you start speaking about the plot of this film.
Millionaire playboy Britt Reed is heir to a multimedia newspaper conglomerate. His father passes away. His father, who's given him shit his whole life, so he has to kind of step up. The guy who makes the coffee, he accidentally fired, so he hires him back. That guy's name is Cato. He also works on the cars. Turns out he's a fucking genius, and so Britt decides, hey, let's fight crime together. And so they do, except they decide to do it by pretending to be bad guys, but actually doing good shit. So as his newspaper, he writes about the Green Hornet, who is his superhero alter ego. He wants to call himself the Green Bee, but that's shitty. Eventually, he comes up against a guy named Chodnovsky, who is a Russian gangster who wants to be feared, but is really kind of laughable, played by Christoph Waltz. That's really weird. Turns out the DA is working with him. They decide to take out the Green Hornet together. Why do I keep calling the Black Hornet the Green Hornet together?
10 seconds.
And eventually they're unsuccessful because they use the car that Kato made to completely destroy all the bad guys. Everyone dies. And the Green Hornet lives to fight another day as a hero.
That's it. I don't know how to turn this off. Okay, I turned it off.
I was going to say, you turned on your calculator weirdly. That was bizarre.
Hi, it's me.
But yeah, that's basically the movie, right? Like, and there's a whole thing about like how the DA was blackmailing his father at one point. Like, there's that whole thing comes in, so it kind of redeems his relationship with his dad.
Yeah, it turns out that his dad was a dick, but not in the way that they thought. So
right, yeah. Just a dick in terms of his relationship with his son, not a dick in terms of his relationship with the truth.
And let me tell you, the scene at the end where they put the head back on the statue should have been mid-credits.
Agreed.
It sucked as an ending.
Agreed.
It would have been amazing as a mid-credits.
Or an end credits, like one of those two.
Whatever. Yeah.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you there. But no, I agree. It absolutely does not work as an ending to this movie. Should have been at least a mid, or if not an end credit scene. Absolutely. Because it starts with him entering going, Kato, forget everything we just did. This is the most important thing we've ever done. Never mind that this movie, like the first thing they do together is basically the worst thing Bart Simpson's ever done, which is saw the head off of a statue. Never mind that.
Wow. Hey,
it all comes back to the Simpsons. Simpsons did it, as they say.
You know what was nice to see in this movie?
What's that?
Was Eddie Furlong working? Man, it was nice.
He got arrested hours after the premiere.
I know. And you know what? I'm not defending anything that he's done because he's done some fucked up shit. He has.
He was arrested after the premiere for violating a restraining order.
Yes, he has done some domestic abuse stuff, and I do not condone that. I think that's terrible.
That is.
But when you read a lot about what happened to him as a child star,
mm-hmm. I'm
not saying it explains that, but it does make you draw some lines.
Sure.
And I feel bad for the people that he has hurt,
mm-hmm.
but I also feel bad for him just knowing what he went through, like as a kid. Yeah. And that fucking sucks because this dude had a fucking future, man.
He did. And
Eddie Furlong is the shit. As an actor, the shit.
He's a talented actor too. Like T2, he's incredible in. American History X, fucking terrifying. Like him and Ed Norton both deserved Oscar nominations for that movie. Norton got one. I don't think Furlong did, but like he deserved one. Like he should have gotten one. He's so good in that movie. That movie, one of those movies I can only watch one time. I saw it once. I don't need to see it again. I'm good. No, I don't need to watch that again.
My final thought on Eddie Furlong is I hope that one day he gets the help he needs
mm-hmm.
and that he gets the redemption arc that I think he fucking deserves.
That would be nice.
I want to see this guy in shit because Eddie Furlong, even as a kid, dude, he's nailing it.
I don't like the dialogue that he gets in T2, but he's at least doing what he can with some really shitty teen dialogue written by a 40-year-old man.
Yeah. One of the few things James Cameron cannot do is write dialogue for children.
And I mean, he's still in shit. Like he's in a couple movies coming out this year that have come out this year.
There's one that I saw was very highly rated, so maybe he's on the comeback. I'm way into that.
Yeah, like I hope he is, and again, I hope he's gotten the help he needs. But honestly, a lot of the stuff he's done, not really great. Like he's in the Uwe Boll movie, Assault on Wall Street, which was the movie that kept popping up when I wanted to on Amazon Prime when I wanted to watch David Cronenberg's Cosmopolis. I kept getting that instead. I'm like, this is not what I want. And I tweeted about it, and Uwe Boll's podcast host like caught it because he just apparently searches for the guy's name and like retweeted it and tagged Uwe Boll in it, and Uwe Boll saw it and liked it, and I was like, fuck. That's the last thing. There's a reason we've not covered in any Uwe Boll films on this podcast yet, and it's because I don't want to fucking get on Uwe Boll's shit list.
I do, because then maybe he'll come on the show. I'm sure he's a nice guy.
Okay.
Nice, lovely people make shitty movies sometimes. I'm just
I don't know.
saying.
Given how reactionary I have heard that he gets on the internet, I don't know how
Oh
true
shit.
that is.
Well, I don't know anything about it. If you know more than me, then I'll trust your judgment and say, yeah, no thanks.
I'll just say there's a reason we haven't, because we could probably do a month of Uwe Boll films. We don't want to.
Hey, but no good. I mean, it's all good press, right? Like that would bump up our numbers, though. I'm just saying.
Potentially. But I don't want to. You don't have to manage our social media accounts. I do, and
oh,
that
yeah,
is
try to do everything else, Steven.
Like, yeah, all those guests that you're scheduling.
What, me?
Mm.
I don't know what you're talking about. I would never schedule a guest, not behind your back, Steven. Certainly
I
not.
know. That's the point. Anyway, look, there's a division of labor that we have agreed on before we set out on this endeavor.
And I'm always just teasing. If I didn't want to do what I do, I just wouldn't fucking do it.
You wouldn't fucking do it. You would have said no every time we offered you that co-host spot. So, yeah.
Eventually, I said yes.
Eventually, you said yes. It took a few months, but we got you.
It was a hard sell, yeah.
Yeah. And it was not just us. It took our friend JP Leck to chime in there too. He'll be coming on soon. I'll be good to talk to him again.
I can't wait. I'm so excited. Good. Speaking of
teaser,
a movie we might possibly cover with him, I borrowed that to a coworker the other day, and I can't wait to hear what she says about it. And if they watch it before we record the episode on this unknown film that I'm talking about,
that we'll cover next week,
I will definitely include their take on it. Secondhand, of course.
Of course. Right on. I look forward to that. And you'll hear our takes on that movie as well. So
because she's a big fan of Torque. And if you're a big fan of Torque, come on, man.
And for those of you who lost track of how many weeks there have been in this month, we're on week 4, and there's still one more week in August. So that means we got a Tucker's Choice next week.
There's one in November too, Steven.
I know. There's 4 a year. That
one's going to be fun. That one's going to be fun.
There's 4 a year. We give you 4 chances to pick an episode every year.
You know, what if instead of having my own Patreon show, what if I just took over for those 5th Sundays?
5th Thursdays?
Same thing.
No, it's not.
We record on Sundays, ding dong.
I know.
Sunday. I know I'm wrong. Steven. Let me be wrong. Let me do it.
I was trying. You can't find me.
We'll discuss it later. I've just been thinking about that lately since we can't seem to get my Patreon show off the ground, and since I do kind of have a soapbox, every time that there's a 5th Thursday, might as well, I'm just trying to put those two things together.
It's possible.
Maybe we'll see what happens.
We do that.
Keep tuning in, listener, to find out what happens.
We're gonna have a band meeting one of these days, and whatever that is, we'll figure it out. But yeah, Green Hornet, that's a movie we watched.
You did.
Yeah, man. Like this movie, Hollywood starts talking about doing a Green Hornet movie in 1992. Part of the
that's
fallout,
when they were doing like The Shadow and fucking Phantom and shit. That's when all the radio shows were trying to make movies.
The fallout from the Batman, the success of Batman led Hollywood to go, you know what? Old-timey heroes from the 40s. That's what the kids love.
Comic books.
Nope.
It's not comic book heroes, not modern comic book heroes as Batman was at the time.
Right.
I love studio execs, man. I fucking love them.
And it was because Batman was popular in the 30s and 40s when these guys were kids. So they're what other shit did I love as a kid?
It's always been popular. You can't put it in one decade. That's
these old guys are just like, what else did I love when I was a kid that we can bring back? And so, this shit is sick. That's why we get Dick Tracy the next year. That's why we get the Phantom and the Shadow, and like that's why that happens in that time period is because of Batman, which again is the most mind-boggling fucking thing. But whatever, it happened.
And we're gonna cover the Shadow at some point, and I'm very excited to see that because I've always wanted to. Ever since the Shadow came out, I've always wanted to see it, but I've just never seen it.
You know who's in the Shadow?
Alec Baldwin.
You know who else is in the Shadow?
Not Alec Baldwin.
Sir Ian McKellen in one of his very first American film roles.
Yes, dude.
Yeah, it's fucking wild. That movie, That movie is problematic on levels, and it is really fucking weird on others.
I can't wait to see it.
I haven't seen it since I was a kid. I also had the novelization, like the junior novelization of The Shadow, back when they used to make those. So this movie's begins development in 1992, and Eddie Murphy is lobbying hard to play the Green Hornet.
I'd watch that. I'd watch the fuck out of that.
Eddie Murphy really wants to play the Green Hornet. They finally start circling a filmmaker who they actually are circling Michel Gondry around this time. It's supposed to come out in 1997 and is supposed to star George Clooney as the Shadow. Or as the Green Hornet. This would have been
watch that too.
This would have been a couple years before Batman and Robin, and it would have been the movie he would have done instead of Batman and Robin. But eventually they drag their feet on it so long that he leaves to do Batman and Robin.
For good or for ill.
So, which of course is the last time he ever does a superhero movie. Well,
is it, Steven? Is it?
Not counting a movie we might cover at the end of this year. But he, hint, wink, nudge. Tucker's pulling on his eyelid.
Say no more.
So this would have been actually Gondry's directorial debut had he done it at that time. It eventually changes hands. I think at that point, I actually wrote all this shit down. Let me pull up these notes on my phone. Because I do have all of these notes typed in.
Well, you made notes.
Phone. I did. I actually made notes for this podcast. That's how much
That's
I love
cute.
you guys. It is adorable.
That.
So Clooney leaves and Greg Kinnear steps on board.
I'd watch that too.
And around this time, I think it's supposed to be him and Jason Scott Lee as Kato, with Michel Gondry directing.
Also would have watched that.
Which would be a freaking cool movie.
Every iteration of this so far, it just sounds amazing. Like I'd watch every version of this movie.
So that's being developed at Universal. That falls apart. They decide to stop development on that, move on to something else. The rights drop out. They end up getting bought up by Miramax, by those delightful little scamps. I misread that. It's raging assholes at Miramax. And they buy it up, and Harvey Weinstein announces, human pile of excrement Harvey Weinstein announces that he's going to give that to his golden boy, Kevin Smith, to write and direct. And Smith was
one of his trio of golden boys. That is.
Right. Yes. Him, Tarantino, and Rodriguez, the trifecta of Miramax in the late 90s.
What a time to be alive.
Right. Oof. But
no, I meant because I like all three of those filmmakers.
Oh no, sure.
I mean, fuck the Weinsteins, but I like all just to be there. I was there, man. When all those guys were at the top of their game, man. And seriously, what a fucking time to be alive. It's a crazy time.
So Kevin Smith, he's sworn off making a superhero movie for multiple reasons, not least of which is his infamous Superman Lives experience. Working with the studio, John Peters, the expectations of fans. But he's like, I like the fact that this guy is Batman before Batman. I like the fact that the expectations on this thing are not nearly as high as they would be for a more established, well-known hero. I kind of like it. And the script that he develops would have a younger Green Hornet to be played by Jake Gyllenhaal. And that one would have been the son of the original Green Hornet, and the original Green Hornet and Kato would basically be retired. And so Britt Reed Jr. and the daughter of Kato basically become the new Green Hornet and Kato. The original Kato in that one was supposed to be played by Jet Li.
I like that idea.
That's kind of cool. I don't know who the older, who the older Green Hornet would have been, the older Britt.
Stanley.
Britt Sr. God, no.
Michael Rooker. There you go.
Honestly, I could see them putting I could see him putting Carlin in there.
Yeah,
Rooker's actually a good call, though. Rooker would fucking kill that.
Well, at the time, he didn't have a relationship with Carlin. That's why I said Rooker.
Yeah.
get
Yeah,
him already.
he develops it. He develops that relationship post chasing Amy, which is when
it was Dogma.
Yeah, he starts to establish a lot of his like bigger name connections at that point. I mean, him and Affleck and Damon all kind of come up together, but once he connects with them and they're later, after they win their Oscar and Dogma comes out, they're pretty much, he's able to get all sorts of people through them. Gyllenhaal eventually drops out, and then Wahlberg steps in as Green Hornet.
Don't know if I would have watched that one.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe it would be good. Who knows? But I'm not as sure about it as the other ones that I would want to see.
At some point, Ron Underwood is attached to direct. It's the guy behind like Mighty Joe Young, and he was very big in the early 90s. After him, they hand the project at some point. The Korean actor Song Woo Kwon, I'm butchering that pronunciation, and I apologize, is in talks to play Kato. After that falls apart, after Underwood drops out, it goes to Taiwanese director Stephen Chow, who is going to direct opposite Seth Rogen. And that's kind of like
going to be in it though, right?
Right. He was going to be Kato.
Yeah.
So he was going to be Kato, and then Rogen was going to be Rogen was basically going to star and write. Chow was going to star and direct. And it would have been his first American film. And ultimately they drop out because of creative differences. Based on what I heard, he wanted Kato to implant the Green Hornet with a microchip, which then Kato would control with a joystick.
No, dude.
Just it's a very Stephen Chow thing. It just doesn't work for this material.
Yeah,
that's like a very Stephen Chow idea.
Half of the whole like draw of it.
Mm-hmm.
That takes it away, because I think, especially with this film, I think what is really interesting about it is that it's all Kato. Kato does all of it. And Britt just kind of he's just there. He's kind of I mean, you can bounce ideas off of him, and he thought about the ejector seat, but Kato, it's all Kato.
Let's be honest.
Like 98% of everything that happens that goes positively for them is Kato.
If Britt was not white and did not have money, Kato, he would be the sidekick and Kato would be the lead.
Well, and that's the thing. That's what Britt brings to it. He's like Batman with no talent.
Exactly.
So he needs talent. He needs to get somebody in there to like help him.
The Kato, absolutely.
If anybody's the joystick, it's going to be Britt. Like, that's why that's such a stupid fucking idea.
Yeah.
So dumb.
Yeah, I agree.
I hate that. I would not watch that. Absolutely not.
So that's why they got rid of Stephen Chow. At one point, they were talking to James Wan before getting Michel Gondry back to direct. I think Michel Gondry really wanted Vince Vaughn.
That would be interesting.
Like Vince Vaughn was in the conversation at one point.
That could go either way. I'd be interested to see where it would go for sure.
Right. But before finally landing on Michel Gondry, Seth Rogen as the Green Hornet, and they get Taiwanese singer.
Yeah, he's a straight pop star.
He's the king of Mando pop, is what I read on his Wikipedia page. Like Mandarin pop, like he is the master. Like he is to Mando pop what like BTS is to like K-pop, or what Taylor Swift is to M-pop. Like that's just like,
did you make that up?
I did, yeah. Did you like that?
I did actually. That's why I mentioned it, because that was kind of rad. You kept it going with and then you just kind of threw your own in there. It was easy to understand, even though it was brand new. We'd never heard it before. Well done, Steven. Put that in lexicon, everybody. Everybody just call it M-pop now. I'm way into it. American That's what I'm going to do from now on. People they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, American pop. Because there's, different kinds of pop from different countries.
K-pop, J-pop, Mando pop. Like it's a whole thing. This world is bigger than just this country, people.
You don't say.
There's life outside of our borders.
I can't believe this. Tell me more, Steven.
I don't have that kind of time, Tucker. At one point, they were talking to Abby Cornish to play Lenore. And then of course,
Who cares who plays Lenore, honestly?
It's a nothing part.
Part
it's a nothing part. It is, which sucks that the female lead is given a grand total of no things to do over the course of the movie.
And I love how like they try to make up for that at the end to be like, you're the fucking mastermind. It's like, shut the fuck up. No,
yeah, that's lip service is what that is.
She helped you with some research.
Yeah, Kato is the mastermind. That's the point.
She's fucking Barbara Gordon in a wheelchair at best.
Mm-hmm.
At best.
Mm-hmm. And then of course the big name that was attached to this movie, hired for this movie, dropped out of this movie, was of course the original Chudnovsky. Do you know about this?
I know not of this. Please give me this.
They originally wanted Nicolas Cage to play Chudnovsky.
Okay. I could see that, especially like in that opening scene. And all the like scenes where he knows he's the shit, but he also has like that insecurity about him. Oh, Nick Cage would have fucking mopped the floor with that shit.
His initial plan was to perform the entire role with a Jamaican accent. Such that he was really pissed at Seth Rogen when he saw James Franco in Spring Breakers, because he becomes convinced that Franco stole his idea for that movie.
That's a wild movie. Spring Breakers?
Never seen it. I am in fact, there is a giant ass blind spot in my filmography, in my film viewing, around the person of Harmony Korine. For many reasons, I have never seen a Harmony Korine film.
Is just, it's something, man.
That's what I've heard, and it's the main reason why I've not watched it yet, honestly.
I couldn't tell you if it's good or if it's bad, but damn it, Steven, it is something. You've never seen anything like it.
It's what I've heard. So eventually Nick Cage drops out of the movie because he didn't like the character as written, because he didn't want to play a character who just went around and just killed people to kill them. He wanted to discover the humanity in there, to really dig into why he was doing these things and to give it some kind of motive, because he's a fucking real actor. And he wanted something that he could play that made sense to him. And he said, unfortunately, there just wasn't time to develop that, so I had to leave the project. But there exists somewhere in this world a version of this movie where Nicolas Cage is playing Chudnovsky with a fucking Jamaican accent, and it probably makes $7 billion. $1 for every person on this godforsaken rock.
I'm into it. I'm way into it. Instead, they casted thing of the moment Christoph Waltz,
Academy Award winner Christoph Waltz.
That's not to take anything away from Christoph Waltz, but literally the only reason he was cast in this movie is because Inglourious Bastards had hit.
Correct. Yeah.
And everybody knew who the fuck he was then.
Yeah.
Like right after that hit, he was in every movie, and this was one of them.
Yeah, he was a huge fucking deal off of Inglourious Bastards. This is actually his immediate follow-up to Inglourious Bastards.
Wow.
You know how they talk about like the Oscar slump, like you win an Oscar and then the very next project you take is like shit. Like we talked about that when we talked about Catwoman, because Catwoman was Halle Berry's Oscar follow-up. Like this is his follow-up, and you're just like, what? I
don't know if I call this shit though, but I understand what you're saying.
But no, but his performance here versus his performance in Inglourious Bastards, like his performance in Inglourious Bastards, he is Inglourious Bastards. Like, yeah, Brad Pitt is in it. Yeah, Michael Fassbender is in it.
Eli Roth is in it. He's the mayor Jew.
Yeah, sure he is. Eli Roth is there. I don't know if he's in anything.
You be nice, Steven. You be nice.
You know who that role was written for, Tucker?
Adam Sandler?
Yeah. You know who
I just guessed. Holy shit.
You know who would have fucking killed that role?
Yeah, dude.
Adam Sandler.
With that, you've ruined that movie for me because of that bit of perspective, Steven. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And
'Cause
that's
I had
why.
no problem with Eli Roth until you
And now
just
you do.
made that revelation. You son of a bitch.
I absolutely had a problem with it because he's trying to do a fucking Brooklyn accent, and I'm just like, wait, he's a bear? This is the guy you call the Bear Jew? Really?
That's what's
This
funny about it. I
this
don't know. I just
spindly
kinda saw it
little
as just
asshole?
yeah.
But no, like, and yeah, Diane Kruger is in that movie, and Daniel Bruhl is in that movie, but like,
Mike
that
Myers
is
in that movie.
in that movie. True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of SNL alumni,
Yeah.
in that movie.
In that movie. But that is Christoph Waltz's movie. Like, he
Oh, for
is
sure, yeah.
from the
He
first
sets the
scene.
tone.
He
Yeah.
walks in and goes, "I'll be taking it from here, fellas." And like, I love that Tarantino almost didn't make the movie because he thought he'd written an unplayable villain in Hans Landa. And then Christoph Waltz walks in and he goes, "Oh, okay, it's this guy. Got it. All right.
Fucking
Cool."
nails it, dude.
He does. He knocks it fucking out of the park. He's so fucking good. And then he wins his second Oscar for Django Unchained, which is, again, fucking wild.
He's really good at that. It's not one of my.
is.
It's one of my lesser favorite Quentin Tarantino films, but he fucking knocks it out of the park in that movie.
He does.
I love
He's
him in
in.
that
He's in so many movies we can cover on this podcast. He's in the Three Musketeers, the Paul W. Sanderson Three Musketeers. He's in the DreamWorks film Epic. Like, the Legend of Tarzan. He's one of the villains in that. He's already been in Alita Battle Angel, which we've covered. Like, he just fucking shows up in shit and just, yeah, he's
really
in
good the French Dispatch too. I know I've said this before, but the first French Dispatch, while being one of the most Wes Anderson films ever made, it's also one of the least Wes Anderson films ever made. Tonally, like
Interesting.
visually, it's incredibly Wes Anderson, but tonally, it's dark, man. The French Dispatch is Wes Anderson's dark movie, and
Interesting.
I fucking loved it. That's what kind of reignited my love for Wes Anderson, because after the Royal Tenenbaums, I was like, yeah, Steve Zissou's fine, but it just kind of seemed like he was getting in a pattern that I just didn't really. It just kind of seemed all kind of samey. Moonrise Kingdom, whatever, you know. The stop motion animation stuff was really good, but he just kind of seemed like he got into sort of a holding pattern. And then motherfucking French Dispatch comes out, dude.
Grand Budapest was the one that I heard that everyone was like, "Oh my god, this thing's so good," and I just never saw it.
I am quoted as, when I saw this film, as saying Wes Anderson's head has disappeared so far up his own ass that he somehow made a perfect film.
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
It's true. And like, that's why, like, I was there like opening weekend to see the most
Asteroid
recent
City.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah. And it was fucking phenomenal. And there's so many layers of that film. I think that he's finally able to match the intensity of what he's trying to do visually with a script that makes it all fucking worth it. Okay. That's where Wes Anderson is right now, and I'm fucking pumped, dude.
Okay.
Because I've been with him since Bottle Rocket. I liked his shit back before he even knew who the fuck he was.
Right. You're a Wes Anderson hipster.
Fucking amazing.
Right.
Yeah, but like everything from Royal Tenenbaums to French Dispatch, whatever.
Royal Tenenbaums is the film of his that I've seen that I like.
That was the one where I was like, you may have lost me.
That's the one that I own. And I loved, that is Gene Hackman's last great movie. Is the Royal Tenenbaums.
Gene Hackman, and he is fucking great in that movie.
That is the last great Gene Hackman performance in my mind.
R.I.P. Gene Hackman.
He's still alive. He's just retired.
But is he doing anything?
He's retired, man. He's in his 90s. Let the man relax. You
know what? I get him and Dennis Hopper mixed up a lot, and that's why I said R.I.P.
Oh yeah, Dennis Hopper definitely. You know what movie you should watch that has Gene Hackman in it?
Both of them? Oh, okay. Let's say, is there a movie with both of them in it? Because I'll watch that.
I mean, there might be, but no, I was thinking of The French Connection, the movie we were talking about behind the paywall.
Yeah. Well, your Billy Freed's movie.
Yeah, Billy Freed's. But yeah, like, it's after Royal Tenenbaums, it's Behind Enemy Lines. I saw it, not that good. Runaway Jury, which I used to own, but I don't think I ever saw. And then his final film, Welcome to Mooseport.
With Ray Romano.
Yeah.
Yeah, that movie's all right. It's a Sunday afternoon kind of movie. It's just not much of a movie. It's just kind of
But
there,
after
but
that,
it's
he
fun and
he he
wholesome.
he kind of looked around at the roles out there and went, you know what? Not anything really here anymore. I'm gonna go ahead and peace out. And so he did.
I can dig it.
But yeah, dude's
That's what
like
you gotta
well
do.
into his 90s, I think. Like let the man enjoy his retirement, because
Speaking of Gene Hackman, so I'm not gonna tell our audience what the movie was that we were supposed to cover this week.
we are going to be
But I
covering it within the next month.
I am gonna say it was directed by Tony Scott, and my favorite Tony Scott movie
Hmm?
is Enemy of the State. And Gene Hackman
Gene
in
motherfucking
that
Hackman.
fucking movie. Oh
Hmm.
my god, dude. Him and Will
Yeah.
Smith, I love the way they play off each other because it's just like I would expect them to be like in real life as Will Smith and Gene Hackman. Like Will
Mhm.
Smith just Will Smithing it up and Gene Hackman being like, shut the fuck up. Like,
Yeah.
I love
What
that movie and I love them in that movie. Like every scene with them in it is just a fucking delight.
I think it was for the movie Runaway Jury, but when I remember my theater professor in college talking about an interview he was watching with Hackman and Hoffman, Dustin Hoffman, talking about their
Okay, yeah.
process. And
Sure.
Hoffman, of course, is extremely method. So he's just sitting there like talking through like the through line of the scene and all this shit. And he said Hackman's just kind of sitting next to him, just kind of just like bored out of his mind, just like Chris Pine in that Harry Styles interview where this movie feels like a
Yes.
movie, like very much in that kind of vein. And I was like, I want to see this interview because it just strikes me as hilarious, because that's not Hackman's process at all. And
No.
it's absolutely Hoffman's and has been Hoffman's from day one, because that's how he learned. Like so many of these
Yeah.
guys come out of the Meisner or the Liv Ullmann or any of these other like these schools, or Irene Adler, not Irene Adler. That's the fucking character from Sherlock Holmes. Stella Adler.
There you go.
Out of these schools. So like, because that's how Brando did it, and all these guys are like, ooh, I like that guy, I'm gonna do what he did. And so they study the method. So yeah, that's but yeah, Hackman's just bored out of his fucking mind, and I love it. If they'd have made a Green Hornet movie in the 60s, Hackman would have been a fucking great Green Hornet.
I'd watch the shit. I'd watch that twice in a row, probably.
Hell yeah. They did make a Green Hornet TV show in the 60s, starring
Gene
Van
Hackman wasn't in it.
Williams. No, it was Van Williams was the Green Hornet in that one. And after that, he decided, I'm pretty much done with acting. And he pretty much was after that, because he'd made some really smart business investments, and so didn't really need to act anymore. And he was like, I don't really like it anyway, so fuck you all. They offered him a cameo in this movie as a cemetery guard, and he said no.
I think that's kind of a shame. I respect his decision, but also it's always nice to see, no matter how cheesy or kind of put upon it feels, to see the original actors come in, like with Wonder Woman 84. To
Yeah.
see Linda Carter come in, like, even it was fucking stupid, but it's just
Agreed.
really nice to see them, like, just to have them there in the modern thing, like with Lou Ferrigno in every fucking Hulk movie.
Yes.
Like, he's a security guard, and like, I'm here for it. Like, I just want to see him. I just want to be like, oh yeah, yay, high five, let's move on. And I just wish that Homeboy would have come in and done this movie. I wouldn't have known who the fuck he was, but I would have known that he was there, and I would have been like, yeah, I feel a little something in my cold dead heart.
It feels like a blessing from the previous generation to the new one when that happens. Like even when it's something bigger, like James Garner in Maverick, where you've got like the guy who played Maverick, like playing a main role in that, but it's like a passing of the torch. And I think that's the most perfect example of that, because you literally have the two playing opposite each other. And now, of course, he's not playing Maverick, but then at the end, it kind of is. Like maybe he is playing the same role. And I think I posit this on that episode. Like maybe he's just playing the exact same role. And that's Brett Maverick Jr. is that he's the Maverick from the show. And then the Mel Gibson character is his son. Like easily could have worked.
And that's why I will watch every Shaft movie, every Shaft reboot or remake with Richard Roundtree in it. Hands down. If I see the trailer and it looks like utter garbage, I don't care. Richard Roundtree is there. Blessing. Let's watch it. Let's do it.
I own the first two Shaft movies on 4K.
Yes,
because they're both
I'm very jealous.
They're both on that Criterion 4K.
I like that 2000 Shaft though with Christian Bale.
John Singleton.
I thought that one was good. I like that movie.
Here's
People
the thing.
sleep on that movie, dude.
I
loved that movie.
have not seen it, but at this point I know I'm going to have to cover it for this show, so I'm kind of waiting so I can watch it fresh for when I have to watch it for this show.
I'm actually very excited because we get to cover both Shaft reboots.
Yes.
And I have not seen the new one, and I want to see it so bad because
the
not
Tim
only
Story one,
it's a fucking double blessing, dude.
It is
double movie blessing. And
double
I'm
blessing.
So here for it.
Absolutely. You get both Samuel L. Jackson and Richard Roundtree in this, passing it off to Jesse T. Usher. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like they're going to do any more of those. So yeah, we get to cover both of those.
As long as the next reboot they do, it has 3 blessings.
As long as Richard Roundtree stays with us, and honestly, I'm so glad he's still with us, unless I haven't heard something unfortunate that's happened recently, or unless something happens really unfortunately between when we're recording this and when this episode drops. Please don't.
All sources report that he's still alive. Hopefully at least until next Thursday.
As of 11:46 Eastern time on Sunday, August the 20th. Yeah, it is, man. It's getting late for Tucker's.
Why you got to remind me of the time, man? You're not supposed to tell me.
I'm sorry. But no, Richard Roundtree still around, still kicking, still working. He's got a movie coming out this year, and has got 3 more like in the can. Like, God, I love that man.
Dick Roundtree has that work ethic, dude. And he's like a billion years. He was born in the motherfucking 40s.
He was. He's been around for a long. Motherfucker's been around for a long time. He was born in. I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna just look it up. What the fuck?
I'm gonna guess 42.
Let's see. He was born in fucking on the head 1942.
1942. Yes,
July 9th, 1942.
So he's 81 years this year.
Old. Yeah.
He's hanging in there.
He is, and he's still working too. Like, man works. Like we said, movies coming out, like movies that are already out and are still coming out. Like, man is still working, and God bless him for doing it. I mean, he's got the work ethic of Samuel L. Jackson, like the man who just keeps working. Not much that man
he's
won't
old
do.
As fuck too, man. He's in his 70s, isn't
he? He is. Yeah, Samuel Jackson in his 70s, still working like crazy, and is apparently one of like the most professional. One of like the most professional actors. Like, when he shows up, he is completely prepared and off script, like completely.
1948. Samuel
74.
Jackson.
Yeah, 74. He'll be 75 later this year.
And this man, in
born
every
the week
movie,
of Christmas,
any character that he plays in any movie now, unless it's specifically stated, I have to say it's implied to be early to mid 50s. That's where I'd place any character he's playing right now.
Yeah, he is one of those blessed actors who can absolutely play so much younger than he is. Like, yeah, what a fucking legend. God, what a guy. Samuel L. Jackson. Hell yeah. But yeah, stay tuned for both Shaft remakes, both the John Singleton and Tim Story ones.
Is it soon, Steven? Is it soon? Tell me it's soon.
They're not on the schedule yet. They're not on the schedule yet. We can talk about it after we're done recording.
We have the power to make the schedule, Steven.
I'm aware. I just need to find a good time to slot it in. We can talk about it after we're done recording.
Let's do it.
Not make a sex tape, to be clear.
What? Why not? Okay. So let's talk about how this movie is actually pretty good.
Yeah. Okay. So
can we?
I remember this movie just being unwatchable when I first saw it in 20. I didn't like it. I didn't like it. Like, it wasn't like, but then again, like I was a Marvel movie fan in 2011. Like, it was a good time to be a Marvel movie fan.
Who wasn't?
Exactly. Like, it was a good time to be a Marvel movie fan. Like, we had a Thor movie that was pretty decent. We had
just
Hulk
a comic
movie.
book fan in general.
Really?
Was a good time.
The comic book movies were They faltered a little bit in the early part of the 2000s, but they were rallying and coming back strong in 2011. And it was, I don't know, starting in 2008, they kind of start roaring back again. And it's an exciting time to be a comic book fan. It really is. So like compared to everything else, and we kind of have went over a lot of the things that were coming out around this time. We've gone over those. But like with among this embarrassment of riches, this kind of feels like an odd duck because it's not explicitly a comic book property. It's based on a pulp hero from a radio drama.
It's barely a superhero.
Barely a super, like
more of just a vigilante. His sidekick happens to be a fucking genius. Like,
right. He's the prototype for Batman. This is our prototype for Batman. Mm-hmm. It's like Batman is half Green Hornet, half Zorro.
Well, Batman is just, you combine the Kato and the Green Hornet. Like, you don't need the other guy. Just make them all the same guy.
Right.
The guy with the money is the world's greatest detective. He did study martial arts. Like, you know,
he does build all his own tech. Yeah. But I mean, the stated inspirations for Batman are always Zorro and the Scarlet Pimpernel. Like, those are the two that get like stated all the time. And it's definitely there. It's baked into the cake of the thing for sure. But yeah, so that's kind of where we start with this thing, but it feels more like a relic, like a recycled relic from a bygone era, like pumped full of like as much modern twist as we can like pump into the thing. And I don't know, like in some ways it feels like very much like an early 2000s superhero movie. In some ways it feels like an early 90s superhero movie. And in a lot of other ways, it feels like it's something that is in some ways a little bit ahead of its time while still feeling very regressive also. Like it's a weird line this thing rides.
I agree. It's, I just feel like there's so many, I don't even know how to explain it, but there's so many different ways that this movie is pulling.
Yes. And to come back to the lack of focus. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and to stay with what we're talking about, I think all of them are good, but they don't always mesh well together. I don't think there's anything in this movie that is bad. There isn't anything in this movie that doesn't land for me. It's just the way that the ideas conflict with themselves.
It's
not,
what
I mean, in the tone.
Cohesive. The movie needs to find a lane and stick to the lane.
I don't even know which lane that would be because, like I said, it all fucking works. It just doesn't all work together.
That's the problem. You know? And that ultimately is the problem. I mean, and you get a guy like Gondry, who, from my understanding of him, is such an eclectic filmmaker that part of that jumble of tone and lack of focus might just be, on some level, kind of his brain and how it works within a large budget studio film.
Oh yeah, because this is a guy who, honestly, with Michel Gondry, the lower the budget, the better.
Which, I mean, that's part of the reason Kevin Smith was loath to take it at one point, like, because the budget could have been huge.
I think that's why the very obviously practical effects that are in this movie, alongside like the CGI and stuff, the stuff that's obviously practical is the stuff that works so well, because that's that man's bread and butter. Like that car going up the elevator and cutting in half and shit. That whole ending sequence, holy fuck.
Yeah, with the exception of the blood splatter, is pretty much
that's what Michel Gondry can do on a budget. He doesn't need a budget to do all that other shit.
Right.
It just gets in the fucking way, honestly.
And the studio executives were apparently pretty inattentive to the making of this movie, particularly the more expensive parts of making this movie. So the budget kind of just got away from them and just started to balloon out of control because no one was keeping track of anything.
And nobody knew what movie they were making.
And no one knew what fucking movie they were making. And it feels on one level like a Too Many Cook situation, but by the same token, this thing feels pretty, at least in terms of like the voice, it feels pretty unified in terms of voice, just not in terms of like tone or style. Like I can tell there are remnants from a lot of different drafts in this thing, but it still feels in service of a whole, you know, like weirdly. Like I know what I'm saying probably isn't making any sense. It makes sense in my head. I'm just having a difficult time articulating it.
It makes perfect sense, because another film that encapsulates that perfectly, though not, I don't think in a negative way, is Hot Rod, which I gather you still have not seen.
You're correct. I would have mentioned it.
That was a movie that was written in the 90s, and then it was given to Lonely Island. And so what they did was they took the story and they just rewrote it as a Lonely Island. And that's what this movie feels like. This movie feels like a different script. And then Goldberg and Rogen came in and just made it their version of that.
Right.
It doesn't feel like something that came from them. It feels like they were the editors on it. And for Hot Rod, that works. And for a lot of parts in this movie, it works too. But you can really, really see, there are some parts where it really, really shines, where you're like, that doesn't, like, what? How is this the same movie?
Like I think when it works very well. When it doesn't work, it's pretty glaring. Like there's a montage, like there's a scene around the news table where after Green Hornet and Kato have had their first outing, and they're talking about all the things they've done, and they talk about how they've blown up streetlights at an intersection. And we're like, when was that? I haven't seen that. Cut to a big montage where they're like rounding up a bunch of bad guys, and they run through a red light. The camera flashes and they go, oh shit, camera got us. And so Kato blows up the camera. And I'm like, well, that's clearly the thing they were talking about before, but is this the second time they've done that? And if that's the case, why is this the first time we're seeing it? Like it feels like the left hand didn't know what the right hand was doing at one point in this movie.
Yep. I agree with you.
It feels like there's at least one, if not two subplots completely missing from this movie.
Yep. I'll bet there was. I've always wanted to, I've never gone after like a physical release of this, but I wonder if there are deleted scenes that would fill that in. And now I almost kind of want to buy it just to find out, or see if there's like deleted scenes on YouTube or something. Because I felt that way this time too. I felt that way this time for sure.
Like
that wasn't something that struck me before, but
a reason for Cameron Diaz to be in this movie, a reason for Academy Award nominee Tom Wilkinson to be in this movie. Like
little baby David Harbour too. Little baby David Harbour.
Yeah, he's tiny David Harbour.
Fresh-faced David Harbour.
Before he was Hellboy, he was a skeezy. Apparently,
Stranger Things.
That character was an ally to the Green Hornet in the comics.
Yeah,
and so that's their big subvert. Like he's one of the few people that actually knows Britt Reed's identity and like helps him on cases and shit. And in this, they completely subvert that expectation. If the audiences knew who the fuck Scanlan was, they would have subverted that expectation in the same way that like the first Mission Impossible movie subverts your expectation of John Voight's character and Jim Phelps and what he's there for. Like, I don't know, pretty interesting.
I also thought Edward James Olmos was kind of wasted. There had to be some reason for him to be there, right?
Yeah, other than to just look disapprovingly at Seth Rogen every 20 minutes.
I get his function in the story, but you don't hire him to be in a fucking movie for 15 minutes.
Agreed.
Just popping in every once in a while. Like there's got to be something on the cutting room floor.
Another Academy Award nominee. Yeah. In this movie, somehow inexplicably, like there had to, like he's not going to sign up for something this thankless. There's got to be something else here that we're just not seeing.
Well, and that's why I think I'd love to see it nowadays as a television series, because all the stuff, his relationship with his father, I think that stuff would be very interesting to explore within the context of this specific Green Hornet story. I'd totally watch a sequel series to this, like for sure.
Yeah, I would absolutely watch a sequel to this or any kind of revisiting of this. Ultimately, based on, again, factors that we'll discuss a little later, that didn't happen. So, but I don't think I would have watched at the time, but after revisiting it now, this feels like a movie that's in about another 5 or 6 years away from someone going, you know, it's actually pretty good, Green Hornet, and everyone going like rediscovering, kind of going, you know, I think you might be right there.
Way hipster on that. I've been saying it since it came out.
You
Been like, you
have.
know what? I don't know what you guys are talking about. This is actually pretty rad. Is it perfect? No. Is it great? No. But it's a damn good time.
Yeah, and that's kind of
Damn
what I
good
noticed this
time.
time. I'm having fun, and I don't know if it's just that this feel if all superhero movies are so the same that anything even slightly different just feels exciting.
Right? Yeah.
But I was just like, I'm having fun. Like this is a good time. Like I think Christoph Waltz's villain is really underbaked. I think honestly a lot of the character work in this is really underbaked.
He still kills it though. He knows exactly what movie he's in, and
no,
he's
he does
fucking killing it.
But I don't like. I agree with Nick Cage. Like, there's not enough of a motivation. He's not a character.
Agreed.
He's a caricature, and the joke of him is, I think, very funny. That he wants to be a supervillain and can't fucking figure it out. And so the whole movie is his arc in the movie is trying to figure out how to be a supervillain. And then, of course, by the time he gets it right, he dies. Literally, the moment he gets it right is the moment he's killed, which sucks for him, really. But
in a surprisingly graphic way for a PG-13 film.
Yeah. I mean, the actual violence itself is done off screen. But you see the impact and then the aftermath. Like you see Kato make the impact and then you see what becomes of him after, but you don't actually see the collision. I think if you'd seen the stakes penetrating his eyes, that would have been
like Sam Raimi style, like following the stakes into his eyes.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
I'd watch the shit out of a Sam Raimi version of this movie too. Just
Raimi, I would too. Actually, that sounds fucking incredible.
Same cast.
It's got like, honestly, it feels it certain aspects of it kind of feel a little Raimi-esque, like, because that's not the guy you would have pegged for a Spider-Man movie necessarily, but he pulls it off. And by the same token, I'm like,
not
the Eternal Sunshine guy is doing this.
Not until they announced it. When it was Spider-Man, I never in a million years would have been like, yeah, I could see Sam Raimi directing a Spider-Man movie. But as soon as they announced it, I was like, oh shit, I can see Sam Raimi directing a Spider-Man movie. Now that you mention it. That was me in like 2005 when they announced Robert Downey Jr. is gonna play Tony Stark. Yeah. And all of my friends are going, I don't know. He's such a liability. Like, what's he done? Who's like, can we get insurance for this guy? Like, who knows?
Like, and I was like, guys, but like, he is.
First of all, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, but yeah,
which none of us had seen at that point.
Oh, but, you poor boys.
I know, but I was the guy that's like, look, if you know anything about the character of Tony Stark and the character of Iron Man, this works. This is extraordinarily good casting.
Yeah. Like, had I considered it before? No, but now that you mention it,
no, that's what I said exactly. As soon as you say Robert Downey Jr. is going to play Iron Man, you're like, oh yeah, of course. Why wasn't he the first call we made? But again, he's not the star. Like, that's why they're looking at everyone from Leonardo DiCaprio to Tom Cruise before settling. And the reason they had to settle for Robert Downey Jr. is because the studio couldn't afford anyone bigger. You know who the highest paid actor on the first Iron Man movie was?
Was it Jeff Bridges?
No. It was Terrence motherfucking Howard, because he was the first person to sign on. And so they paid him way more. They signed him for way more than even Robert Downey Jr. made on that movie. So when that movie
made less than him.
Mm-hmm. Oh, like, Gwyneth Paltrow is like, that's a favor for a friend performance.
And Terrence Howard deserves more than her in that movie, I think. But I'm just saying, she's a skinny little white lady. How's she not getting way more money than that dude?
He's the highest paid actor.
Once again, I don't think that she should. I'm just saying, with the way that it works.
I know.
How is he making more money though? That's good for him.
No, he's the first one that signs on. Literally, that's why. He's the first one that signs on, and they have to adjust everything accordingly because they have like no money to make that movie. That movie's made on a shoestring and a prayer. But that movie does so well that everyone gets a pay bump for the second one. And of course, Robert Downey Jr. gets a substantial pay bump because his is the performance that sells that movie.
And he's back after that performance. At first Iron Man, he's back. Robert Downey Jr. is back. bigger than he ever fucking was before.
Ever. And he was pretty big before.
He was. He had like Less Than Zero, Chaplin. Like, your boy was in fucking St. Elmo's Fire. Like, fucking everything.
Yeah, Saturday Night Live, where he was one of the worst cast members on that show's history.
He will tell you that he's the worst.
Yes, he will. He absolutely will. But like that's the. Yeah, but so Terrence Howard asks for a commensurate pay bump. So basically, he's like, I want to be making as much as Downey, and they're like, you're not making as much as Downey. And so he said he expected Downey to like stick up for him a little more, and is apparently hurt that Downey didn't. But they basically were like, look, you were not what made that movie successful, and to prove it, we're going to cast Don Cheadle.
I mean, and they're not wrong. Like I said, Terrence Howard deserved every dollar that he got from that first film. But to go into the second one thinking that you're going to make more than Robert Downey Jr., the person who fucking slayed that first movie, you're out of your mind.
Right.
Terrence Howard, you got to check yourself before you wreck yourself, man. What are you thinking, man?
As you said in that first movie, Terrence, you got to have time to get your mind right.
Yeah, dude.
But look, I feel
what a crazy expectation.
What I really hate is what that did to his career, because after that, he just kind of like.
I mean, Empire.
I was going to say, I need to watch it. I was actually just thinking, I need to watch Empire because I've heard he is incredible in Empire.
Yeah.
And of course, Empire also has my goddess woman, Taraji P. Henson, in it. I love her too.
She was great in Hidden Figures, dude. Go watch Hidden Figures right now.
I can't watch that movie.
Janelle Monáe, because she's too hot and you might die?
I mean, yes, but no, the actual reason why I can't watch that movie.
Oh, you motherfucker. Come on. He's barely in it.
I don't care. He's in it. That's enough.
Steven, this is arbitrary. You're willingly holding yourself back from watching great films because you feel like you have to stick to this thing that you don't even 100% believe in. Steven, come on.
I'm a contrarian by nature, sir. I will do as I please.
But let me speak to the artist in you, Stephen. Let me speak to the person who appreciates good film.
Are you getting ready to call Kevin Costner an artist?
I did not say that. I also did not say that he was not an artist. That does not matter in the context of this conversation. See Hidden Figures, dude.
Yeah, maybe.
Not only is it an amazing movie, but it's an important movie. It told me things that I did not know, and that's history, and it's important history, and it fucking matters, dude.
I do love all three of those main actresses, though, like Octavia Spencer and Taraji P. Henson and Janelle Monáe. Like, yes, absolutely. You're right, though. Janelle Monáe is too hot. She's too fucking hot.
That's why I can't even fuck with her anymore, dude, because back in the day, like, she was a stone cold fox, but like she was wearing like suits with bow ties and stuff. Now she's half naked everywhere. Got them titties out all over the place, Steven.
Bless her, but also
I can't, Steven, I can't handle it. I can't fuck with her anymore, dude, because it's too much. I can't handle it. She's just so fine.
She is
so fine.
She's fine as hell.
I can't handle it, man. I just gotta separate myself from it completely. I don't fuck with her anymore. I can't do it.
I
mean, she's too hot, Steven. Too hot, too talented, she's everything. She's the whole package. And to go out there and just be like that beautiful, no, I can't handle that. Get out of here, Janelle Monáe. Better go on somewhere, girl. Better go on somewhere.
She's crazy attractive. Look, that's it, man. Like I don't know what to tell you.
Not since Erykah Badu, Steven, have I been so smitten.
I just this second learned that she and Tessa Thompson broke up earlier this year.
Well, sounds like we've got a chance, Steven.
I don't know about we.
You're in this with
maybe,
me, Steven.
You maybe, but me, absolutely not. No, God, no. But Godspeed, man. You have my blessing. But yeah, no, she's fine as hell. Absolutely. Janelle Monáe would have loved her to be in this movie. She's not, though. But Cameron Diaz for some reason.
And that's not that we love Cameron Diaz.
Yeah.
Cameron Diaz is shit.
She
it's just like, why is she here? Why is she here?
And look, like this, the one thing I like about her in this movie is that they do the obvious thing instead of the expected thing. Like, she has a crush on Kato and wants nothing to do with Britt. That makes sense.
Well,
within
I
the
do
context
think
of the world and everything else.
That's the one thing that she does contribute to the narrative of this film, or her character. Like I said, I don't want to disparage Cameron Diaz. She's great. She was great in this movie with whatever she had.
With
I guess.
very little she had to work with, yes.
But I think the only thing that she really did to progress the plot in this movie was to show how much of just a misogynist dick that Britt is, and not even, I don't even know that he's misogynist or a dick, but just so not self-aware.
Right.
Like the way he acts in those first scenes with her, that's fucking repulsive, dude.
He's gross. And if
repulsive.
If she were to fall for him as a result of that, we'd all be crying bullshit.
That.
But
I
she
would
doesn't.
Not like this
She's
movie
with
if she did, with
the nice, intelligent, athletic Kato
that
instead
would be a deal
of
breaker for me.
The rich asshole. And look, like, this film could have gone a lot further in the billionaires or millionaires or assholes vein. And I think if this movie had been made today, there is actually a reboot in the works, apparently, as of last year.
Oh boy.
Lee Whannell is set to direct.
Oh, cool.
So that's apparently a thing that is on its way to development hell, I'm sure.
I can't wait.
Yeah, but I'm sure that movie would probably be a little more. I think that movie would do a lot more, both with regard to Asian representation and amplifying Asian voices, and more in the kind of eat the rich vein. I think we'd probably have our shoes in both of those worlds. Like, there's a lot more. I think watching this movie in 2023, I feel like there's a lot more they could be doing, but it still feels pretty progressive for 2011.
But and your boy's progressive as fuck. But does the Green Hornet need to be though?
I think we would want it to be. Some of us would want it to be, I think.
But see, that's the thing.
Or at least to call it out.
I get that. But to take away, like, to take the Green Hornet away from it, because the rich white asshole is the Green Hornet. And even though he's an asshole, he's a good guy, just like his father in this movie. That's what I thought was kind of really cool about the way how they did that. Because Britt is a complete dick, but he's trying to do something good.
Right.
Just like his fucking dad. And I don't know if... I'm not going to say that it's not something that you would want to do in a Green Hornet movie, but I don't know if it's something that you would really be able to successfully do in a Green Hornet movie. You know what I mean?
I think
is it needed? Maybe. Should you do it? Maybe. But is it going to work? I don't know.
I mean, because we never interrogate that really. We try a little bit with Tony Stark, but he's kind of, him and Bruce Wayne are kind of other rich guy asshole characters. And I think we're only now starting to interrogate that in Batman when we have George Lopez and Blue Beetle saying Batman's a fascist.
Thank you, George Lopez. I've been saying
George
that
Lopez.
for years.
As have a lot of people. Honestly, I remember that conversation really rearing its head when The Dark Knight came out. Like, people going, wait, is Batman a fascist?
That was the whole point of that fucking movie.
Yes.
Come on.
And then there are people who are looking at it and not seeing that that's the point. And then people looking at it going, yeah, that exactly. That's what he's saying.
Yeah.
But of course, the people completely missing the point and going, hell yeah, Batman, are the people who are now actually fascists and have worked on ushering in a fascist regime in America.
Yeah. Yay.
Which, I mean, if we're going to call American pop pop, then I think we need to call American fascism Amfash. So
Amfash. Woo woo. I'm anti-Amfash. I'm anti-all-fash. You could say, Steven, that I'm anti-fascist.
Interesting.
It's me. I'm the guy. You found me. Here I am.
Oh, call the FBI.
Oops, I can't believe I've done this. I can't believe I outed myself.
Woo!
Oh, man.
Here they come.
Black suit's coming.
Nod your head.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. That's it. There you go.
Bringing it all back to Will Smith, like I always do.
As it always should. Yeah, Big Willie. We could do a month of Will Smith movies if we really wanted to.
Let's please. I've been with that man since the beginning, man. We grew up together 20 years apart.
Here's the thing, I don't think we can pick up until Wild Wild West. Which
That's
is
cool.
his first flop, because everything else has gotten a sequel.
I do. That's my favorite Christmas movie. I can't wait to talk about that with
you guys.
We will
talk about it. Probably not during Christmas, though.
I'm so excited. We have to. We'll talk about it later.
We will.
Talk about it later. I will convince you. I will not insist, but I will convince you that we need to do it during Christmas. How'd this movie do? I wonder how this movie did, Steven.
So this movie is made the announced budget for this movie, the movie that they told us it did. What the hell?
Double TF. What if we did it late November? Early January? That's close enough for me. I'm just trying to fill the dead air while you do whatever it is that you're doing now.
I'm sorry. There was no information for this movie on the numbers for a second. And I realized I had the wrong movie opened. So that's on me. You've done this. I fixed it. This movie makes
last week in November.
This
Go ahead.
This movie makes $98.8 million domestic off of an announced budget. Let me see if I can find the announced budget numbers. The production budget of 110. So that is a projected budget of 110.
I've got estimated 120 on IMDb.
Okay, I'm looking at the numbers, so there may be some discrepancies there. So, that may factor in some of the additional costs like marketing and whatnot, because this movie was pretty heavily marketed.
Yes, it was.
International, you got another 130. So really, you're looking at about 230 worldwide. So it makes its money back, and it would have been a hit, but for the fact that would have been considered a massive financial success, but for the fact that the production filmed in Los Angeles, which is a notoriously expensive place to film, despite the fact that the film industry is located there. The tax benefits are shitty, if they exist at all. And secondly, the fact that they converted it to 3D, which was another $10 million.
That was a 10 million on top there. Yeah.
Yeah. And which, of course, this movie does not need to be 3D. In fact, I'm going to go so far as to say most movies don't need to be 3D.
No, they don't, because I remember when that was all happening, where you wanted to go see every movie in 3D, and I would notice it for about 10 minutes. And unless they made some sort of effort, like in Ghostbusters 2016, which was not a 3D movie, but it was converted to 3D, they at least made some effort. Like when they were doing ghostbusting scenes, like the proton streams would come like out of the frame and stuff. And that was fucking rad.
They did that with The Last Jedi too. Like I saw that one in 3D, and when Rey's like balancing the rocks at the end of the movie, like they're in the audience. Like it's really fucking
and that's cool. But most movies with those conversions, they didn't do shit. They just converted it. They put it through a computer program, made shit pop out.
Exactly.
And after about 15 minutes, you forget that you're even watching the motherfucker in 3D.
Yeah.
Agreed. You just have some uncomfortable plastic glasses on your face, and you can't take them off because then you won't be able to see the fucking movie.
There have been two movies that I've seen in 3D that I was glad I saw them in 3D. The first, Avatar, which I'm not a super big fan of, but the 3D on that
see it in 3D, good. Yeah, I would watch that motherfucker in 3D for sure. I don't even like that movie, but I'd watch it in 3D.
My friends and I were talking going out of the movie, like, I didn't like it, but I'm glad I saw it the way we did. Like, I'm glad we paid the extra money to see it the way we did. Because I can't imagine trying to sit through that movie in any other way. And then the second one was the first Doctor Strange, Scott Dickinson's, whatever.
Did they do anything weird with that, or was it just a straight conversion?
I think it was a straight, but all the shit with like the Steve Ditko, like magic realm shit was like flying past shit, you.
Yeah.
All the cosmic shit fucking ripped. Like it was so good. Nice. And then like the stuff in the mirror dimension, like particularly that first scene with like the Ancient One and Caecilius fighting.
Oh yeah.
And you got all that shit like folded. That movie.
I bet that is rad.
That was a fun one to see in 3D. But most of the other movies that I've seen in 3D, I did not necessarily like the experience as a whole.
There's just no reason for it.
Right. So unless the filmmaker tells me that's the best way to see the movie, I'm not going to bother. So like if someone like Ang Lee is like, hey, I made this movie with a like super high frame rate for 3D audiences, so see it this way, this is the best way to see it, I'm gonna try to see it that way. Like I'm gonna try to go out of my way to see it the way he wants. Or like James Cameron, if I decide to go see another Avatar movie in theater, I'm gonna see it in 3D because that's the way James Cameron told me I should see it. But otherwise, I'm not gonna bother.
And if Jack Arnold is like, Steven, the best way to see Creature from the Black Lagoon, 3D. What are you gonna do? You have to.
If he's telling me, I would. I would probably disagree with him going out of there, but I would see it that way.
I disagree with your disagreement because it's one of the few films that I've seen in the red and blue 3D, which does not. I'm never impressed with that. It's the only movie I've seen in the red and blue 3D that actually I thought it really benefited from it. Like it worked for me.
Okay.
So I recommend it if you can get a hold of it.
You know the one movie I've seen in red and blue 3D?
What's that?
William Castle's 13 Ghosts.
Fuck yes, dude. Oh man.
It was like it was a home video release, but still they like kept the 3D the red blue 3D and they gave you the
the early DVD release of the entire Nightmare on Elm Street franchise gave you 3D glasses with Freddy's Dead, and straight up fuck that movie, but also they did a pretty good job with converting that. However they had to do it, I don't know if they already had like a 3D print that they just kind of digitized or whatever. I don't know how simple or how hard it was. They did a really good job. Because red and blue 3D is kind of hard to make convincing.
Yeah. Agreed.
But yeah, Creature from Black Lagoon. See that shit.
Jaws 3D doesn't work that well, but yeah.
Well, that and it fucking sucks.
Correct. I think friend of the show Mike Snoonian puts that at the bottom of his Jaws rankings.
They're all at the bottom except the first one, man. They all just like chill at the bottom. There's no ranking. They're all just the worst except for the original.
You know what the second best Jaws movie is?
Watching Jaws again?
Joe Dante's Piranha is the second best Jaws movie.
Okay. I'm way into that. Way into it.
So
yeah, this movie, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you're right. Let's get back to the movie. So this movie, it makes about 2.3 million or 230 million dollars worldwide. Again, would have been a success, but for the fact that the burden of expectation was so huge that they just couldn't make it. They couldn't make it profitable enough to spawn a sequel. So they had a plan for a sequel. They were going to make it. They completely shut down as a result.
Any details on what it was going to? No, fuck.
Nope. But it was like, we're going to do one. Obviously we're going to do one. This thing's, and it was, look, it wasn't critically well received, but audiences seemed to enjoy it. Like people went and saw the movie. Like it made 98 million domestic. I feel like if it doesn't do like super fucking well domestic though, if it doesn't at least make its entire budget back domestically, it's pretty much not going to happen. And that's a trend I've noticed doing this show in particular.
Well, and maybe that was the case then, but nowadays, Steven, you've got stuff like Warcraft. That's going to get a sequel.
Is it? Can I take that one off the list?
It didn't do well. I've heard that they were planning one because of how well it did internationally. It didn't do shit domestically.
Oh, I'm aware.
But it did gangbusters everywhere else. And that's the first, I feel like that's the first instance I've heard of that. But I'm saying maybe the tide is changing. It kind of has always been that way, though.
Weird. Okay. Interesting. But yeah, so that's that. So yeah, it doesn't do particularly well, or at least well enough for the studios to notice, but it does open number one the weekend of January 14th, 2011. The other movie opening this week, coming in at number two, was one-time Green Hornet roomery Vince Vaughn, starring opposite Kevin James in a little movie called The Dilemma.
I've never even heard of that.
There was a dilemma. They're like business partners, and Vince Vaughn's girlfriend is cheating on him, and Kevin James knows something about it. Yeah, it's dumb.
I'm already asleep.
The rest of the top 5
night.
are Oscar holdouts from the previous year. So in third place, we've got True Grit.
Fuck yeah.
In fourth place, eventual Oscar winner, The King's Speech.
Fuck yeah.
And in fifth place, you've got one of my partner's favorite movies, The Black Swan.
And I like that movie. I just honestly, like Darren Aronofsky.
So does my partner.
In general.
He's a big Aronofsky fan.
You know he's going to fuck you up.
Yeah. Did you see
The
Whale?
Time. No, man, I haven't seen it yet.
The Whale fucked me up.
Look, it's Aronofsky, man, and I know it's going to fuck me up. That's why I haven't seen it. I will see it eventually when I'm ready to get fucked up, Stephen.
As a person of size and as a person who came from a religious background, that movie fucked me up 10 Ways to Sunday.
That's your perfect double feature with Clerks 3, right?
Oh God.
Right.
Clerks 3 also fucking wrecked my shit, which is not what I was expecting going into fucking Clerks 3.
I need to see that again, by the way. I still haven't rewatched it. I saw it at the theater, but I still haven't rewatched it. I need to.
Oof. Also in the top, or rounding out the top 10, we've got Little Fockers in sixth place, Tron Legacy in 7th, down from 4 the week before. In 8th place, holding steady at 8, future episode of this podcast, Yogi Bear. Good Things Coming Bears.
I never saw that.
Good Things Coming Bears.
Pears, I guess, is what they're... I guess that's the joke.
So the poster for that movie is one of the most egregiously awful things I've ever seen. It is literally...
Wait, isn't there somebody rad in that, though? What's the poster? Tell me the poster.
The poster is Yogi's face up top, Boo Boo's face at the bottom. So Yogi is standing directly behind Boo Boo, and the tagline at the bottom is Good Things Coming Bears.
Dan Aykroyd as Yogi Bear, though?
Mm-hmm. And who's playing Boo Boo?
Have you seen this movie, Steven? Have you seen this movie?
No. Who's playing Boo Boo, though?
Is this a good movie?
Justin Timberlake.
How's this not a good movie? What's the score? 38? 35?
I don't know. I don't have that one pulled up right now. I'm got all my Green Hornet shit pulled up right now.
What?
Probably not a good movie, man.
Dan, what?
Another Oscar player in at number 9. David O. Russell's The Fighter. And speaking of Nicolas Cage, the number 10 movie, Season of the Witch.
Have you seen The Fighter though, Stephen?
Of course I have. I saw that one in theaters.
All right, right. I was gonna say it's on my Vudu if you want to look at it, dude.
No. Have seen, is good. Can vouch, is good. Like,
I always forget about that movie.
Christian Bale and Melissa Leo both deserve their Oscars, although I am okay with Melissa Leo never getting another one. We've also got one of my favorite movies of that year at number 17, Blue Valentine. Speaking of movies that'll fuck you up.
Fuck is that?
It's Ryan Gosling and Michelle Williams in a romantic tragedy, I guess, is kind of the right. You basically get to see a couple falling in love intercut with a couple falling out of love. And I've
never heard of it.
Fucking heartbreaking. It's really good. I saw that one in theaters with my friend Kelly. And we both had a great time with that one, but it absolutely wrecked my shit. And she and I left arguing over which one of them was actually at fault. So it's kind of one of those movies where you're like, why is this thing like, why did this all happen? We basically watched the relationship fall apart, and then he kind of leaves the burden of proof on you to determine if it should have or
I have to see that. It's from the same director as The Place Beyond the Pines. Did you see The Place Beyond the Pines, Steven?
I did not.
Fuck, dude. Also starring Ryan Gosling. You got to see that, dude.
All right.
Same director, 2 years after the movie we were just talking about. I'm pretty sure that's on my Vudu.
Place Beyond the Pines?
Yeah.
Right on. I'll check it out. He's only done four movies, this guy. He did a movie in 98 called Brother Tide. And then he did Blue Valentine, Place Beyond the Pines, and his latest movie was in 2016. He does a movie called The Light Between Oceans.
Nice.
A movie I have never heard of, but stars real couple Michael Fassbender and Alicia Vikander. So good for them.
Nice.
But yeah. So he's supposed to be the director of the Ryan Gosling Wolfman movie.
Oh, is that still happening?
Apparently. I mean, there's a writer's strike going on right now, so probably not right now, but yeah, that's supposed to be happening.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, and he's attached to direct, so that sounds fucking great. I like that a lot.
Agreed.
Speaking of like directors who you wouldn't expect to make that kind of a mainstream jump, but yeah. The tomatometer score for the Green Hornet is a 45%, with the critics' consensus being it's sporadically entertaining, but the Green Hornet never approaches the surreal heights suggested by a Michel Gondry-Seth Rogen collaboration, which absolutely fair.
Yeah.
The Metascore is a 39 based on generally unfavorable reviews from 39 critics. And the Letterboxd score is a 2.4. Tucker, out of 5 stars, what are you rating Michel Gondry's 2011 Green Hornet?
I'm going to give it a 3.
Which is ironically exactly what I gave it.
Nice.
Like, this movie is giving strong 3 energy for me. It's not great, but it's not as bad as I remembered. And again, I don't know if that's just because in a land of homogeneity, anything heterogeneous just feels good. But it's definitely better than I remember it being from my 2011 perspective. So
I'd say it's a once in a decade watch. Once every decade. I'd watch it about every 10 years and have
that
a good
and Howard the Duck are going to be on my decades list.
There you go. Oh, and yes, Steven, The Place Beyond the Pines is on my Vudu, so check that out.
Hell yeah. So now you just need to throw Blue Valentine up there. Actually, I'm sure Blue Valentine is probably streaming somewhere.
Is it on sale?
I don't know.
I like it when Vudu has sales.
I don't know. You got Vudu up. You pull that. I'll look and see if it's actually streaming anywhere on. I will tell you, Blue Valentine, not a feel good movie.
I do love me some Michelle Williams, though. I'm saying. I cannot deny
Blue Valentine is currently on HBO Max.
Well, let me go ahead and add that
to your list.
What was the thing I added before?
DuckTales 2017.
Oh, fuck yeah. Hell yeah.
A thing you absolutely need to watch. He did write the film Sound of Metal. He didn't direct it, but he did that same director did write the film Sound of Metal, which is apparently really fucking great, and is a Criterion 4K release that I apparently need to get. So there you go.
Yo, Criterion. Oh, did you miss the sale? That was like a 2 or 3 day sale. It's like 35% off all the 4Ks. Did you get that?
Oh, I missed. I always wait for the 50% offs. It's just more like they'll do a flash sale here in probably another month.
Sometimes you need it though. Sometimes you need it. Sometimes you need Thelma and Louise on 4K. I'm just saying.
I bought six Blu-rays and 4Ks during the Barnes and Noble sale in July, so that tided me over. I bought a lot of stuff I needed then, so we're good.
Yeah, I can't wait till next month, dude, because next month Criterion is going to be sending direct to me the day they drop La Bamba and The Trial.
Orson Welles' The Trial. I'm fucking getting that in 4K.
That Trial is 4K as fuck.
Mm-hmm. I watched the Citizen Kane 4K not too long ago, and it looks so good. It looks so good.
My favorite thing to watch in 4K are black and white movies.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know how in 4K, like it almost seems like the brightness can be adjusted in certain parts of the screen. Black and white movies, dude.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I can see right through them, and I love it.
I think black and white is such a great way to watch a movie because you don't have to be distracted by the colors. You can just focus on the performance, and that's
absolutely.
Orson Welles used to call black and white the actor's friend, and it's 100% true. So
I agree.
Which is, I'm convinced the reason why The Artist won all those fucking Oscars. Because that's not that good of a movie, but it was in black and white, and so you really got to focus on the performances, and they looked better than a lot of other things because it was less distracting.
That's an interesting theory, Stephen, and I think I subscribe to that.
It's literally one I just came up with, so that thought just occurred to me, and I was like, that probably has something to do with it.
Dear listeners, you just witnessed the creation of a take.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, this movie's on Freevee right now, free with ads. So if you're not too precious to be bothered by ads, check it out because it's kind of fun.
It's pretty all right, yeah.
It's a bit of fun. So yeah,
There
absolutely
are
check it
way
out.
worse ways that you could spend 2 hours.
Correct.
Way worse ways.
Correct. So there you go. That's that, and that is our episode on 2011's The Green Hornet. This is the Disenfranchised Podcast, the thing you've been listening to. We exist on all social media platforms. We are on Twitter, well, not all, but most. Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, Facebook, Threads, and I think that's all right now. As soon as I'm able to get a Blue Sky invite, or if you want to send us a Blue Sky invite, hit us up. We'll get on Blue Sky too. But we are.
I want to be on Blue Sky.
Yeah, Tucker also wants that for us. But yeah, shoot us. You can shoot us an email or that Blue Sky invite to disenfranchpod@gmail.com. Along with anything else that you want to let us know. You can tell us how we're doing, what you like about the podcast, a movie that you would love to see us cover one day,
how your most recent doctor's appointment went. Like, it doesn't matter. Whatever you want to talk about, we're here.
Exactly. And you know what? If it's appropriate, we'll read it on the air. Maybe if it's not, who knows? Yeah, we won't give out your personal information or anything, but yeah,
but we will air your dirty laundry for sure.
If that's what you want us to do, we'll do it. Yeah. Hell yeah. You want us to propose to your partner on our show? We'll do that. We'll do that.
I'll do that. And a matter of fact, I'm ordained. I will marry you motherfuckers.
There you go. The show. We can have a special patrons only episode of your wedding. Unless you want it main feed. Don't put it on main feed. You can invite the entire Disenfranchised Podcast to your wedding.
Yeah, dude.
There you go.
Make sure there's a vegetarian option, though.
Please.
Your boy's going to come hungry. Your boy's going to come hungry.
Yeah. So there you go. But yeah, so that is apparently, yeah. So shoot us an email. Let us know if you want us to give you a disenfranchised themed wedding. Brett and I will host the reception. No, Brett will DJ. I'll MC your reception. I've just volunteered Brett to DJ. I hope you like Ice 9 Kills.
Wowzers. Some people do.
Yeah, they do. Brett does, absolutely. Also, and Ray Parker Jr. also. I hope you like Ray Parker Jr. because he will at some point absolutely be playing the Ghostbusters theme.
You got to.
You can find us on Patreon. Tucker and I just recorded a fun hour-plus long episode of our weekly Patreon-only show, What Are We Watching?, where we talk about all the various things that we were watching, including an extended conversation about just any other bullshit thing that we talk. It's a hot mic segment that just kind of becomes us talking about what we're watching, which is kind of fun. But yeah, and check us out, patreon.com/disenfranchpod for just $5 a month. You get access to that plus any other content that we release. Sometimes it's behind the scenes stuff. Sometimes it's other things. Sometimes it's one of our like 5 like just Patreon exclusive shows that we will release whenever we feel like it. So, you know, Upsal Video Game Corner, Upsal Christianity Corner, Disenfranchised, Unenfranchised, just as the mood strikes, we will do. But yeah, that's all there behind that paywall. And there are literally hours of content available for you back there. Patreon.com/disenfranchpod there. You can also rate us. Please rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever podcast, your app that you use. Help other people find us so that we can, be heard by more people. Our numbers are slowly rising. There are dozens of us,
Mm-hmm.
And for that, we thank you. And we would like there to be, maybe a few more than dozens. So, help us hit that goal, please. And thank you. Because we would very much like to be in that camp with you. But yeah, so please do that. I'm your host. My name is Stephen Foxworthy. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, and Threads and Blue Sky at Chewy Walrus. You can find our absent co-host Brett Wright on Instagram and Letterboxd at sus_warlock. Tucker, where can we find you on the social medias these jolly green days?
On YouTube at Ice909, ICENINE is the number 0 and the number 9. Also, things be popping over at Tuck's Mugs on Instagram. That's at Tuck_mugs. We had a guest mug that wasn't like one of us the other day, man. It was one of the listeners. and it was great, and it was a great story, and it really fit the format, and I had a lot of fun with it. We all had a lot of fun with it. Everybody at the Tuck Mugs crew, we all had a good laugh and guffaw, and just an appreciation for what was done with that post. We quite enjoyed it.
Absolutely. It was a good time.
That's all the places I am.
That's all the places he am. So there we go. That is our Green Hornet episode of the Disenfranchised Podcast. That's what this has been. I'm your host, Stephen Foxworthy, from my co-host Tucker and the absent Brett Wright. Until next time, you just got stung.